Hi there people, Mark Vergeer here with a very nice topic. Do games need a story? And that was asked by that bloke over there, Mr. Infected Flinch. If you don't know him, click on that picture and go check out his channel. But he asked a question on games and stories. Do games need a story? Are there any games without a story? And what do you think about the story in games, actually? Basically, that's what this video is about. And to go back to the basics, I don't think there is a game without a story. I think every game has a story, even Pong. Pong is, well, basically two bats and a ball that jumps in between. A very basic game, one of the first video games. There's no narrative, there's no real flow or real story to be told, but it's the rules of tennis basically. So the rules of an arcade game are more or less the story. The story makes the boundaries of what is happening, creates the boundaries of what is happening in the game, sets the situation. You know, Pong, you have one or two bats and a ball, and if the ball moves beyond one of the bats, the other player gets a score. You actually are able to come up with the story yourself. You just basically push some buttons, move around the controllers, and you'll see what the game is all about. It's actually quite easy to do so. And quite a few of the arcade games, the early arcade games are like that. I mean, does Pac-Man have a story? Well, yes, because if you're presented with the screen and you move around the joystick, you see that Pac-Man is eating the pills, and the score goes up. So yeah, you know, okay, well, he's supposed to eat food, so probably the little dude is hungry. And then there's these ghosts, these blobs going around the screen. Well, you can go meet up and say hi, and then you get destroyed. So you think, oh, okay, well, Pac-Man is hunted by those ghosts. Well, you know, it's cool. But then you come up to one of these large power pills, and you eat them, and the ghosts turn into these scary persons, and you managed, you find out that you can actually destroy the ghosts for a very short period of time. That's basically more or less a story. And then if you have eaten the last pill, you get a new screen. So yeah, it's a cycle that renews. And so basically, you know, the Pac-Man story is about a very hungry little blob that get chased by other blobs, and if you get to evade all the blobs and eat all the pellets and get to the new screen, you get a high score. So that's the story, basically the rules of the game. So I don't think there's actually any games without a story. The rules of the game, perhaps you have very strange experimental games that have some sort of, you know, they are created to be some sort of experiment, and you move around the joystick and there's nothing really directly interacting with you, or only vaguely or indirectly, and that can be something of an experience as well, you know. But more or less every game has some sort of story built in, you know, if only the rules of the game. Now you have very difficult games that have an elaborate story. You know, point-and-click adventures. I mean, you get presented a story, and if you don't do the things in a certain sequence, the story doesn't advance. And that's actually quite interesting as well. I mean, the move from point-and-click or the move from arcade to those type of games was actually quite interesting. Day of the Tentacle, for example. That game with, I forget, Lisa Shoot Larry, for example. Also games that have a story and that have humor and that you get to explore to some extent, but you have to do certain things in order to advance. The Last of Us, similar type of game, an adventure game where you also have to do certain things to advance. But there's also open world games like Minecraft and Grand Theft Auto. Well, in Grand Theft Auto, you can just go walk around without hurting anyone. Just being this perfectly behaved person, and then it's just walking around the city not doing anything, and you find out that you get away. Sometimes you get away with doing nasty things, and well, that's actually the story of the game, do nasty things, and it helps you by introducing missions and stuff. So, but you can choose not to or choose to do certain missions, and that's the thing. People make up their own story. They make up their own hoodlum life, and yeah, even pinball games, they have a story. You get presented a ball, and you have to keep the ball in the game. If not, you lose. And pinball games all have very various topics. There's the Star Trek pinball game. There's Star Wars pinball games. There's just all sorts of pinball games. And the cool thing is that they sometimes provide a story. They have these LCD screens, and they sometimes depict little sequences of a story being told. Or sometimes you have voice output that tell you what you should do next. So it's more than just a ball and some bats. It's just or flippers. It really becomes a story. So there's people who want to make up their own stories, and there's people who want to be spoon-fed stories. That's basically two ends of the spectrum. I'm somewhere in the middle. I like a good story that's being told, but I also like to be able to roam freely. Oh, and if you haven't subscribed to Mr. Flinch, there he is. Go click. Yeah, games can have a story without words being spoken, without text being displayed. And a good example of that is actually a great game called Flower. Which is on the PlayStation 3 and I believe also the PlayStation 4 and perhaps the Vita even, where you start as a single flower petal and you just have to go explore. And even the controls of the joystick or the controller are presented to you in some sort of well, it's an experience. You notice how if you move the controller with tilt, you notice that you can actually direct the motion of the camera, and you'll be able to just move about, and then you come across flowers, and then you set them on fire. You light them up, and basically you find out what you have to do without it being told to you. Another great example is the game Journey, which is a game on the PlayStation 3 and 4, where you start out as a hooded creature in a sandy environment, a desert environment, and nothing inside but old artifacts and old buildings and a bright light in the distance. And yeah, you just basically find out what the game is all about by doing it, by moving, by experiencing it. And there is a story to be told. You have to do certain things to advance or to finish the game. You can even meet other people without being able to talk or without being able to communicate really. Just behave. You can behave nicely, you can interact, or you can just stick together and experience it together, like silent partners alongside each other, or you can just, ignore the other person and just go on your merry way, just, depending on how you feel or what your personality is like. Yeah, games like that I like a lot. Just, the various type of games. RPGs, I like for the story, for example, Japanese RPGs. They're a grind and you have to level up, but it's interesting because you get to experience another bit of the story if you do it properly. There are games on iOS and Android that do mimic this RPG mechanic by just only the leveling up thing. And that's games that I do not necessarily enjoy. Shoot 'em up, first person shooter. I do like a first person shooter where you have to go somewhere, or where you have to find something, where you have some sort of mission, some other mission than just basically running around trying to kill as many other people as possible with them screaming in your head. I like shooters, but not the ones that are just basically all about fragging people. That's not my style. Perhaps because it's very hard for me to come up with my own story on that. I mean, I like to be able to, in one of these fragging games, you get killed, well, within 10 seconds, and then you respawn and you get killed again. So there's not really a story to be told. I like to be able to survive, like being in this hostile environment and somehow with my wits, or seemingly with my wits, but heavily aided by the game, be able to survive in harsh environments and coming up with this strategy just to be able to get further. And well, a game like Half-Life, which has a narrative which is very structured, is actually quite interesting like that, because it's a shooter, but you also have to go somewhere and experience an adventure, which is nice. And I like sandbox games. For example, I have a hard time just basically, being nasty and being violent in a game. But sandbox games, they do provide a way of being able to choose your direction, to tell your own narrative, have side quests, side missions, and that's actually quite interesting. And now then there's another type of game that sometimes provides a narrative which I often don't really care about, and that's actually racing games. I love racing games, and I've actually these 3 monitors set up, and which makes it even more immersive. And yeah, the racing games are, with the story, I don't necessarily care too much about the story or about the progression. Sometimes I do, but mostly I don't. I just want to experience the speed, the exhilaration of driving, and near-miss accidents and stuff, or what is it? Yeah, accidents that just didn't happen just, because you missed crashing into someone just at the last moment and stuff. I'm not sure what I'm thinking here. But yeah, so yeah, I'm complicated like that, I guess. I do prefer to play a lot of arcade games, pick up and play games at the moment, but I do tend to go into more. I do tend to be able to play and finish quite a few games. I've been finishing quite a few games recently, and playing games, which is actually quite good, because I like that. I like being able to finish a game and playing a game, but lack of time often, and fragmented time often, prevents me from doing that. But yeah, do games need a story? Well, games do not need a story that's been hand-fed, but sometimes they do, because it's the structure of the game. But I can enjoy a game if I must make up my own story and find out what I have to do for myself. But yeah, like I told you, like a game like Journey, where you basically have no structure, you just can wander around aimlessly. Some people like that a lot, and others just go crazy. They just want, they just want structure. They just want to be told what to do, and then they are very happy to do that. But yeah, I'm different like that. Shadow of the Colossus, prime example. Shadow of the Colossus is an amazing game. The story that's being told is also quite intriguing. I like playing the Shadow of the Colossus, but I don't like to do what you're supposed to do, and that's bring down those giant creatures. I think it's very cruel to do that, and if you do bring them down, they seem to be hurting quite a bit, and it's something that I just don't like to do. What I do like to do is just wander around experiencing, perhaps even climbing up on those critters, but not necessarily killing them, or don't kill them. Even if you stick to what you're supposed to do in the game and kill all those critters, well, you'll be surprised by the ending. It's an ending that you don't really necessarily expect, which may be cool, which may not be cool. But yeah, I just don't like, sometimes I just don't like the story that's been provided. And I do like the game, and I do like the graphics and how it's presented. But yeah, Ico, for example, I like much more. The story that's being told, I like much more than Shadow of the Colossus. So yeah, do games need a story? Well, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It depends. So that's my answer. Mark signing off, and I'll be back with another video soon. And yeah. Oh, and thanks to all the subscribers that have subscribed. Thank you to all the new subscribers that have subscribed. You'll probably notice that my channel is pretty varied. It's pretty random. I have a broad interest, so my videos span a lot of things. I do tend to come back to a lot of those things. But it could be that you're interested in a video and you find that I'm not making the same videos on the same topic right away. Yeah, you just stick around and you'll find that there's going to be videos on that specific topic that you like eventually. And if you like certain videos on a certain topic, well, you know, it couldn't hurt to just ask if you want to, you know, see something, or I could just, you know, whip up a video on that if I feel like it. If I don't feel like it, I probably won't do it because it's a hobby. It's not a job. So, but I do appreciate everyone who has subscribed. And yeah, go subscribe to Mr. Infected Flinch. He's over here. And click on that. And if you click on that, you'll be presented with his channel. And he's actually studying to become a game developer. Great dude. Met him at Replay in Manchester the other week. And great sense of humor. And, well, very much worth checking out, I say. Well, that's it. Mark signing off. Bye.